Good morning, audience. I want to talk to you today about my interview with Craig, who used to be a rock star, a rock drummer, and on a path for destruction, and how he changed his life and wants to help you change yours if you are willing and ready to help become from someone who has been destroyed in their life to somebody who is really helping others and has created a beautiful life for themselves. Good morning, Craig. How are you today?
Good morning, Ernie. Thanks so much for having me on. This is exciting.
Not a problem. You know, I met you a week ago and I asked how I can help. And you said, well, I'd love to be on your show. And a lot of people today are asking to be on the Ernie Meyer show because I really like to interview real people that have come from destruction or roadblocks in their life that have really inspired or made a difference in their life to be successful. So this is a different kind of success, but it is one that can touch many people. Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. I started this journey with my brand Ask Craig T really because, like you said, Ernie, I was on a path of destruction. It's funny, your choice of words are so appropriate because that's literally how I talk about it. I have been in the IT field for about 29 years, working in a regular job and, making a decent living. And so that part of my life was, on the surface, I guess, okay. But at the same time, I was also touring with a rock band. I've been a musician, a drummer since I was 13 years old, and professionally since I was 15, playing in a lot of different bands. And I was able to finally hook up with a band here in Colorado several years back. And we started out like a lot of bands as a blues and classic rock band. That the only way to make it in the industry was to write music. So we started writing and we were pretty popular right out of the gates. I won't throw the name out there because it's not appropriate, but we kind of went from here to here really in the course of a week. Had some events happen in our life. We had some great press from Alice Cooper and some other local celebrities, and we just kind of took off. And the story really starts where things got crazy, and I jumped into everything that goes along with being a rock star. We signed a record deal with Sony. We got a 75-foot tour bus, jumped on there. Was on the tail end of a divorce because my ex-wife wanted me to, choose between being a musician and being a family man. She didn't think I could do both, even though I was doing both. And I said, screw it. And I jumped on the bus and I started doing what rock stars do. I started doing a bunch of drugs and started drinking. I was an adulterer. Every town I went to, there was another girl there. And, it was, a lot of people think about rock and roll as this glorious, glamorous lifestyle, and it's really not. Not that I didn't have fun and those weren't some good times in my life, but where it got me to, and this is where my story kind of picks up, about 10 or 11 years ago, I was in a spot where I was, I had come out of my divorce. I was about to get remarried and I was still fighting with some demons through my addiction. I was still struggling with depression and anxiety. I had this empty feeling of not knowing what my purpose was. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing in life. And at the same time, I'm raising a young lady, my daughter, she was, I think 7 or 8 years old at the time. And I felt like I was missing the mark as a person, as a father, as just a member of society. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And that's really kind of where my story with the brand comes into play. I wrote a book and I was able to get that out electronically to people. And I had no idea what was going to happen. But the thing that happened around that time period was I had given my life over to the Lord, to Jesus Christ. And I speak about him unashamedly. He is my savior, and everything that I'm about to tell you and share from is what I believe God wants me to be doing with my life. And so I wrote this book on faith really because I needed to get my story out there, my testimony about not only how screwed up my life was and what a wretched person I was, but also because of this addiction that I had, and I was still struggling with that. And so I wrote the book and I put it out there. And as God does with things that are glorifying to him, he took it and he blessed it and he multiplied it And that's kind of how I started my Ask Craig T brand today.
That is wonderful. It's a beautiful journey. And I understand from watching some of your shows, and you can catch Craig on some of his shows that he does every week, and we'll put that link below this Zoom YouTube. And in addition to that, I want to remind you that you are watching the Ernie Meyer Show, and you can make a living or you can design a life. And Craig, being a successful rock drummer, was making a living, and he was having fun doing it. But he was not designing his life except a life for disaster. And what I want to share with you is his story of how you too can go from disaster to being a rock star in your own life. I remember being at the mansion with Roy Radin back in the early 70s and getting drunk with Tiny Tim.
Oh, yeah.
And I could, the guy, I could recite every Mets player, and he could tell you what the guy had for breakfast. I mean, he was actually smart. But you had to be drunk in order to enjoy Tiny Tim for a little while. And I could have been a rock star back then because I had the connections, because his boss was Roy Radin, who was a producer and a promoter. And I would have wound up in a path like you back then at age 22, 23. And today I could handle it. But back then, I looking back and I'm saying, it's a good thing that I was told no.
Right.
Even though I had the drumming technique and the voice, and I still have it, but I want to hear about more of your story, and so does the audience, about what you did and what you do today.
Absolutely. It's funny, you keep saying these things that just really hit me on the mark. Designing your own life, being a rock star in your own life. I love that, because that's really what I'm focused on. And it's, I have to say right up front, it's not about, none of this is about me anymore, Ernie. It's really more about how I can affect change in other people's lives. And I know that sounds kind of hokey and markety and stuff like that, but it's really the truth. And here's why. During that time where I was transitioning, and I'll go back to the book, I wrote the book really just to kind of get it out of my head. I didn't know what was going to happen after that was released. And I started getting people looking me up on social media. They would find me on Facebook, and they would send me messages, and I had no idea who these people were. And they would ask me the most intense questions about their marriages, or about, how to manage money better. Or, I was going through a health transformation at the time, and they wanted to know more about that. And that was, it was interesting, because I was like, why are these people asking me all these questions? What is it that I have to really offer? And I didn't realize for a few years that it was my experiences, right? It was those things that God redeemed me from and through, that allowed me to actually have a platform, some credibility to stand on, to be able to talk to people and to counsel people. And, I was really taken back by it, because I didn't expect any of that to happen. And I got interviewed by a guy very similar to this thing that you're doing with your Ernie Meyer show, which is great, by the way, that you're doing this. I love that you're doing this. But it was very similar. At the time, this other guy asked me to get on his show and do an interview, and he wanted to know a little bit more about my book, because he had come across a copy of it. And he kept saying through the whole thing, so people just ask Craig T, for answers to their questions. And I went back and I watched the video later, and I was like, that guy just actually branded me. And it occurred to me at a very small level that was the beginning of my realization of my purpose, was to be a strong believer in Jesus Christ, and at the same time to share my experiences that I've lived through. And that's the important part, is that I've survived all of the stupid stuff that I did in order to come out on the other side basically squeaky clean, right? I mean, I could tell you stories for hours. I should have been in jail. I should have been dead. There were things that I did to other people that were just not right. And in just this past week, Ernie, since you and I have met, I sat down with a brother of mine from a relationship I have 3 years ago. I did something that apparently made him feel like I wronged him. And I was able to have redemption and reconciliation with him, because he finally brought it up, and we were able to talk through it. And my point is this: we're only given this one life here to do what we do. And it's like you said, how can you be the rock star of your own life? How can you design that life to be, in my opinion, glorifying to God, right? That's the main goal, is to make sure that everything I'm doing is for him, because I look back at all the things that I survived and I really should have been dead or in jail several times. And so you want specifics? I'll tell you a story that I don't share very often with people. I think that you'll appreciate it. And I think maybe some of your listeners might relate to it, but there was a point in the middle of my rock and roll career with this band. I had never really done like very hard drugs. I smoked weed once. I didn't like it. I messed around with a couple things here. It really wasn't my bag, but I was doing a show in Aspen, Colorado at a very popular ski resort. I won't put their name out there. And we finished the show, and a guy came up to my keyboard player and said, "Hey, I've got these bag of mushrooms." And so, he said, "These are for you. You guys did a great job." And so we go back to the condominium we were staying at, and we were going to go out later on that night. And we did, but we decided that we were going to experiment with the mushrooms. Now, this is my first time ever doing it. I was like completely unaware of what they were, what they did, or anything like that. It's completely naive. And my keyboard player had done them before and assured us that he was going to stay sober and make sure that he looked out for us so that nobody got hurt. That was the plan. So we go out and we start doing this, and we start having a few drinks, and we meet some people, and we decide to bring all these people back to our condo, and the mushrooms kick in and they do what they do. And I was out of my mind. I mean, I was truly out of my mind. I don't even know how I survived this, but I get in the hot tub with all these people, and we realize that the bubbles in the hot tub aren't working. And so me, in my infinite wisdom, soaking wet, jump up out of the hot tub, and I go run into this maintenance closet where the breaker is so that I can shut the breaker or turn the breaker on to get the pump to work for the bubbles. Brilliant idea. I'm soaking wet. Let's touch electricity, right?
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, I didn't actually get electrocuted. Unfortunately, I fell through a hole in that closet, a 3x3 utility hole that had a ladder that went down under the hot tub. I fell 10 feet through that hole, and I split my head open, and I landed on my back, and I was instantly purple from head to toe. And I don't remember anything other than getting up and walking into that closet. Thankfully, my bandmates were able to pull me out of the hole. They put me off to the side. I was gushing blood, right? Because I had been drinking. And they were like, "We got to call an ambulance." And they were like, "Don't call an ambulance. He's been doing drugs. If we do call an ambulance and he's been doing drugs, we're all going to go to jail." And so there was this whole ridiculous train of thought that occurred in like a second. Mm-hmm. I'm in and out of consciousness. Everybody left. They were all freaked out. I wake up the next morning, and I go back and look in the closet and look down the hole that I fell through. And I realized right then, honest to God, and I'm not a believer at the time, I looked up to the sky and said, "Thank you, God, for not killing me. I should have died. I should have been out. That should have been it for me." And I started thinking very regularly, why did I not die? I had it in the back of my mind. It was a thought I had. And I'll tell you, when I became a believer, that thought got amplified over and over again, because I started to look back at all of the points in my life that I was doing the stupid things I was doing, and I was somehow able to come through it. And I mean, Ernie, I could write down a list a mile long of all of those times that God was present in my life, that he was there, that he said, no, not yet. I have something bigger for you. Mm-hmm. So that's my transition to what am I doing now? So now I'm a certified coach. I'm a professional social commerce business owner. So I help people online with some other stuff. I'm obviously an author. I've written a couple of other books, and I love to speak. I do a lot of inspirational speaking, and all of those things together really come under what I call my 4F philosophy. And it's what's up on the screen. It's finance, fitness, family, and faith. And the reason that I focus on those areas is because I've had redemption or transformation in all of those areas myself personally. And so what I do now is I sit with people and I try to help them. And I don't really like the word coaching, but I guess that's what it is. I'm a coach, but I love to talk to people, and I love to help them through their personal issues. I help them navigate their way through, whether it's, the simplest thing, like, how to do a better budget, right? How to manage your money better, to how to create more income, through other sources, to just being an ear to listen to somebody when they're troubled. I really think that God has given me the ability to listen and to communicate for this purpose. And that, coupled with the fact that I've come through all the things I've come through, that's my mission, right? And the underlying part of all of that, obviously, is that I'm a huge follower of Christ. And, that faith aspect, right? My walk with him is ever changing. And it's the underpinning of everything that I do, right? Every decision I make, every conversation I have, and I won't share details, but even with you and I last week when we sat down, we realized that there was another thing at play that we were talking about, right? It was like, okay, well, here's all this, why we think we're together. And here's this thing that we talked about later. And to me, honestly, that's the most rewarding part of what I do. It's not about money, to constantly be in this conversation about how can I earn money and become successful. To me, success is defined by my ability to help other people accomplish their goals, right? And it's been said many, many times that if you help people get what they need, you inherently get what you need. And I believe that philosophy. I think that that's really important. And it's backed up. Most importantly, it's backed up in scripture, right? To treat others as you want to be treated, to love your neighbors as Christ loved loved yourself, loved the church. And those things are in my DNA. They're a part of who I am. They're what Ask Craig T is all about. And so I spend my time now building relationships and finding out what God has planned for me in that particular situation, and not what I can extract from it for my own personal gains or benefits. So
That sounds good. That sums up your life and your purpose in I don't want to say a nutshell, but at the same time, there are many more stories that you can share.
Oh yeah.
That I have seen and I've heard about, and you have told me. But I want to remind the audience that, again, you're listening to the Ernie Meyer Show, and we're here with Craig T. So if you have any questions, we'll be putting down Ask Craig T, so you can ask him and you can follow him along with his shows that he does every week. So if you like what you see, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel, because we will bring you different people from different walks of life, from different faiths, who have different meanings. But the purpose is that they will go from destruction to glory in what they try and do for others and what they try to do for themselves. And this is what we like. And, this is a hero's journey. And Craig, you hit it right on the nose when you said it doesn't matter how much money you have. I have it in my book, in my bio, that's coming out in about a week or two. But I talk about my father in the late 50s and early 60s. He was a great guy. Everybody liked him, but at the same time, he used to drive aviation fuel, which is a very dangerous job at the time. Yeah. And he drove it from 58 to 62, actually into 63. But in those years, he averaged about $30,000 a year. Now, back there in the 50s, in the 60s, that was a lot of money. I mean, that's today, like you're six figures, almost rich. He died broke. My next door neighbor, who was an inspector at Ford, probably made about 4 times less, maybe even less than that. He died a millionaire because of the way that he actually used money and helped other people at the same time. Now, there's a big difference in there. And you and I have a friend whose father is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. He died broke. Mm-hmm. How many people actually died broke who were once rich? And it's not how much money you make, it's what you do with it. And that's part of what Craig is talking about, but he's also talking about get yourself some positive, beautiful, pure faith in your life. And he chose Jesus Christ. And of course, I follow him too. Not as great and as wonderful as Craig does, but at the same time, we still have a person like that. Find somebody that is actually going to help you and teach you and show you in your heart how great you can be. I want to remind you that you're watching the Ernie Meyer Show and we're with Craig T today. And if you like this particular video, please like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Now, I know what it's like because I can think of about 4 or 5 times that I should have died for different reasons, but yet still did some crazy things in my life, like running up and down this avenue in New Brunswick, New Jersey. We call it the Ave. And, you know, we would race people at 25-mile speed zone at 60, 70 miles an hour. Now, somebody could have stepped out, somebody could have crossed over, but for me, there was a difference in the fact that nobody did. So I got away with it in life. And I actually did that more than once. And I was one of the more calmer people of the people that I hung around with. They were more aggressive and bigger risk takers in that kind of arena. But at the same time, I remember like last year, I almost died because of a brain aneurysm and a stroke. And here I am today. Why I didn't die is nothing less than a miracle. Because when my wife finally got a hold of the emergency, because they wouldn't let her in right away in the hospital, they said, well, how's he doing? And they said, if we don't get him into surgery within 15 minutes, he's going to die. And my wife is driving when she hears that. Now, yes, it wasn't due to drugs. Maybe it was due to something that happened along my life. My lifestyle wasn't the greatest. And I can remember how I myself would have turned to that because I was easily influenced. Craig, I commend you for coming out of that and turning your life over and helping other people in what you do.
Thanks.
So is there anything that you would like to add? How can I get a hold of you and things like that? Please tell us.
Yeah, definitely. And man, your story, I mean, I know you shared that with me last week too, and it still impacts me greatly because, for 2 reasons, and then I'll answer your question. One is your health, guys. If you don't hear anything else that I said today, your health is so important. I'm going to be 50 years old, God willing, in April. And, I came through an incredible health transformation. I was extremely overweight and, I probably would have experienced what you went through, Ernie, with the aneurysm and the stroke, and my blood pressure was super high. It was in triple digits. My cholesterol was out of whack. And, if it wasn't for someone sharing with me, helping me with a solution, I would have certainly checked out. So yet another example of where I was saved for some purpose, right? So that's the first thing. So take care of your health. There's nothing more expensive than a hospital bill. They say you can either preventatively take care of your health now, or you can pay the hospital bill for not doing it later. Either way, you're going to spend money. You're going to pay some cost. And, Ernie, I'm so glad that you're still here, that you didn't pay that other cost, because that's the extreme, right? We don't want to lose good people when they still have purpose. And I believe God's got his hands on you and doing what you're doing. So thank you for all of this. The second thing is, as far as getting a hold of me, you can find me anywhere on the internet like this. Ask Craig T, spelled out just like that. You can, and I'll give you the link, Ernie, for my link tree. That's probably the most effective way to reach me. It has a little bit of information about what I do. It links to my website. And at the bottom of it, it also has all of my social media contacts. So really, however you want to connect, I tell people all the time, I am on pretty much all of the mainstream social media platforms. So if you're on Instagram or Snapchat, or believe it or not, even TikTok, I'm on TikTok, almost 50 years old. There's a place for us there. But I am on all the social media platforms. You can find me that way. You can look up my name. It's spelled, let's see if I can do this right there. That's how you spell my actual name. And so you can certainly look me up on regular social media like Facebook, my personal profile. I'll connect with you any way that you want. If you want to text me, here's my number. I don't care who has my phone number. I've had this number for almost 20 years. So if you don't have it, you're in the minority. 719-201-2592. Feel free to text me anytime, and we can set up some time to get together. Just let me know your name when you text, and you know what? Let me know that you saw and got my number from the Ernie Meyer show, so then I'll know where it came from, and we'll connect and we'll do whatever God drives us to do to connect.
That's wonderful. I'm happy to have you on our show. And again, audience, you're listening to the Ernie Meyer show, and we're here live with Craig T. So if you have any questions or if you would like to comment, please do so below and subscribe to our channel. We have a variety, and I would like to invite Craig back to another interview. And the reason why I asked him, and the reason I asked him is because of the similarities. Even though this one individual does take a different path from the start, him and Craig are on a similar mission to help others. And this particular person is on a mission to help children not get involved in the bad things that we did as children. And this person's name, believe it or not, is Alice Cooper. And I had a different opinion of him till a friend of mine actually interviewed him. And you can find Leah Woodford's interview on my channel, on the Ernie Meyer show. And she interviewed Alice Cooper and his wife. And the purity and the beautifulness of this person's personality is wonderful, and how he likes to help different children. And I asked Craig if he ever knew or met Alice Cooper, and he says, "Why do you ask?" And if you want to find the answer to that, please come to our next interview with Craig T, and you will find that. I'm not sure where that is because we have to schedule it yet, because I just asked him now and he said yes.
Definitely.
So I'd love to hear you that story again, and I know you would like to hear that story again. Now you have a special offer for the audience. Now, what would that be, Craig?
Yeah, so I like I said, I like to sit with people, and just kind of the way I say it in other videos is, let's just get together and see if there's a way that I can help you out, see how you're doing. So what I'd like to offer is, as a coach, I do have clients that I meet with and take on from time to time. And what I usually do is I have a 30-minute consultation with them. And the value of that is $100 is typically what I would charge for that consultation. And I am willing to, if you mention the Ernie Meyer show and you connect with me that way, I will do that 30-minute consultation for free. Absolutely free. So I would love to have the opportunity to sit with you, especially since you are following Ernie online and watching all the great things that he's doing. So that's my offer. $0 for a 30-minute consultation. We can do that via Zoom, or we could do a phone call, or if you're local here in Colorado, we could figure out a way to get together in person.
That's wonderful. Thank you for your generosity, Craig, and for helping others. And again, if you would like to be a star on the Ernie Meyer show, and you want your 15 minutes of fame, or 30, or however long the interview lasts, get a hold of me, and you will see my link down below at erniemeyerlive.com, and you can schedule a meeting to talk about your roadblocks, your failures, and how you broke out into success. And it can come from anywhere, especially business, personal life. Just tell us what made you come out of what you were to where you are today. Any parting words before we go, Craig?
If it's appropriate, I would just like to let you all know that I am praying for all of your health, your abundance. The world is a difficult place to navigate these days. And so if we never talk again, and this is the last thing you hear me say, just know that I am in prayer for all of you, that you would have peace and comfort and discernment about how the world is progressing today, and to not get caught up in all of the politics and the current events, and just stay focused and true to what matters. And that is your family first, your finances, your fitness, but the whole thing rests upon your faith. And like Ernie said, it may not be Christ, but whatever it is that you believe in, you have to believe in something. And if you don't know Jesus and you want to talk about that, I would love to do that with you as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Craig, and thank you for your generosity. And remember, you can make a living, or you can design a life. And you are put here to design a life. And imagine, there's almost 8 billion people. And as a teacher of statistics, yeah, I used to teach that. Now I've got a creative mind, but I don't usually have a boring analytical mind way back from the beginning of life. There are 8 billion people on this earth. There's probably that many problems. Every person can solve a problem. You could be one who may be able to solve a problem for somebody else or for the world. Who knows? So again, like, comment, share, subscribe to the Ernie Meyer channel, and we will see you again. And watch for when we post Craig's next interview that he will do with us. And we'll learn about him and Alice Cooper, and we'll talk a little bit more about Alice Cooper and the good that he does for the rest of the world. And it's wonderful. Really changed my mind listening to Leah Woodford interview him, and his philosophy is just amazing. So I thank you very much, and that's it. I'm going to lean over here and sign off.